do not understand.
I do. I understood that reference.
This podcast is not suitable for children or those who are easily disturbed. Spoiler warning for whatever is in the title of this episode.
And now for the obligatory socials. Please like, share and subscribe. You can find the podcast on Twitter at HorrorPod69. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Slasher and Goodreads. Become part of the Disturbed community by asking for the Facebook group and Discord links. Send dick pics to the horrorofbabylonpodcast@gmail.com. Support the show at patreon.com/thehorrorofbabylon. In closing, you can let your friends know that The Horror of Babylon is available on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible and all other major podcast apps.
Welcome to episode 2 of the Universal Monster-a-Thon, where we review The Mummy. I am Ryan, and with me, as always, is Daniel. Say hi, Daniel.
I prefer the Brendan Fraser one.
I do mostly.
Yeah.
But I also really like this movie.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a remake that I prefer more than the original.
There we go.
But it's not really a fair comparison, because we'll talk about this in history.
Yeah. You
know who's a mummy of dragons? Our first patron, Abigail the First, Mummy of Dragons, and
Logan,
the Full Metal Patron, and Ben the Fourth Patron of Hope, and Mia the Fifth, the Rainmaker.
She makes it rain, yo.
Oh, she makes it rain. And Pierre the Sixth, the Keyblade Patron. And thank you to Horsemen Comics and Gaming, who's the sponsor of the Universal Monster-a-Thon. They subscribe to our Losers Club tier on our Patreon, so they get to choose 2 movies per month for us to review. And they are just having us do Universal Monster movies for the foreseeable future. This month we did Dracula, the Spanish edition, and the original Mummy movie. So thank you to Horsemen Comics. You can visit them at the Morgantown Mall in Morgantown, West Virginia, the Mall Robinson in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And you can shop online at fourhorsemen.tcgplayerpro.com. Okay, I don't think any... Oh, trigger warning. Egypt Otaku.
Being buried alive.
It's not really a graphic betrayal of it, but...
Yeah, but I mean, if that's a trigger for you, it's a trigger for you.
Yeah.
I hate the thought of being buried alive. This one doesn't trigger me, but...
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely not something I would ever want to experience, but, I mean, who would? Who would? Okay, our history with the Mummy.
I used to, every Halloween they would put on those Universal Monster movies on TV, and I'd watch them, and I watched this one. It used to be my least favorite one, and then I watched Spanish Dracula.
I have to rewatch Frankenstein, and Bride of Frankenstein, but so far, I definitely like this more than Dracula.
This is better than Dracula.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of that stems from a bunch of stuff we can get into as we go.
Yeah, I'd never seen this movie before. I've seen Brendan Fraser's The Mummy 4 bajillion times. It has always been one of my favorite movies. So I've always planned on watching this movie and just never got around to it. Honestly, this is one where I think it's actually probably better that I waited. Because I think this is not exactly an action-packed film.
Yeah.
And I think I appreciate it more as an adult than I may have when I was younger.
It's as much as a slow burn that a movie of this length can be.
Mm-hmm. It's like 79 minutes.
Yeah. I miss movies being this long.
Yeah.
I think about a bunch of the good things in this movie come from pure technical things, like the acting's really good.
Yeah.
And comparing it to Dracula, I think Dracula was their first one. I'd have to look it up. But in this one, a bunch of little things like cinematography and use of music is just better on a technical level.
Dracula was the first.
And then Frankenstein.
Technically, Frankenstein was the third. Yeah. And then Murders in the Rue Morgue was the fourth, and then The Mummy.
So they probably learned something, because this is when they were coming out of the silent film era, I think.
Yeah.
So they were adjusting to how people acted on camera, the use of music, and a lot of that is just because I just watched Dracula this past week. Past week.
Mm-hmm.
And so sitting there it's like a bunch of this is technically better. Like from a filmmaking perspective, so.
I think that Dracula didn't use music at all except for in
the Swan Lake music at the beginning.
Yeah, which bothered me throughout it, but they were still developing these things.
Yeah.
The vampire's a pure myth, superstition. I may be able to bring you proof that the superstition of yesterday can become the scientific reality of today.
Okay, so let's go to background. And The Mummy premiered December 22nd, 1932. Had a budget of $196,000. I don't think there's anything on here about how much money it made, but I'm assuming it did pretty well.
It probably did so well that they're still trying to resurrect this franchise today.
Yeah.
This is our 10th attempt at the Dark Universe.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the fact. They do have these IPs that they clearly want to use, but they want to turn it into Marvel, and it's just not working.
Yeah, the MCU, it was
kind of just lightning in a bottle.
Yeah. It's hard to recapture that.
My advice to you, Universal, is to just use the characters, you make single good monster movies, and do an occasional crossover.
Yeah, and then maybe, if you just made, good movies out of each of them that don't have any, explicit contradictions, do that. If they make money, then look at, all right, now what can we do with these?
It turns out Victor Frankenstein never died, and now he's forming the Monster Hunters.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
No, it was Ernest Frankenstein.
Yeah, because he lived.
Yeah. Okay, it was directed by Karl Freund, who is a German director. He's actually best known for his cinematography. He did cinematography on Metropolis, Dracula, and I Love Lucy. And he was an innovator in the field of cinematography. He pioneered the unchained camera technique, which, according to Wikipedia, is arguably the most important stylistic innovation of the 20th century. So essentially what the unchained camera technique is it allowed people to film with a moving camera, which led people to develop tracking shots, tilts, crane shots, pan shots. But before Karl Freund, they just put a camera, and I think you could zoom in or out, but that's it.
Yeah. It sounds dumb to us because we're just so used to it, but I would really like to go back in the day and just see him go, hey, what if we moved it? Just to see the look on people's faces.
Look at any modern movie. Next time you watch a modern movie, just sit there and say, how many of these shots are with a moving camera?
Yeah. I'm like, I bet he blew their minds.
Yeah, oh my god.
That'll look so cool. Or whatever they said in the 1930s.
So it was the screenplay. It's not based on a novel. Screenplay was written by John L. Balderston. He was a playwright and screenwriter, and he did a stage adaptation of Dracula.
People really like their stage adaptations of Dracula.
Yeah, I've never seen one, but I'd be curious. While apparently it's the least profitable between Dracula, and Frankenstein, which, I guess that makes sense. It was still a commercial and critical success and has become culturally influent. and has spawned several sequels, spin-offs, remakes, and reimaginings. And I'm sorry if I'm just straight reading from the Wikipedia. I didn't have time to do notes for this one.
And I've been sleeping.
Yeah. I drove like 5 hours for work yesterday. And,
Jesus Christ.
yeah, and I like another 3 for work today, so...
And that's that. Another story in the classic, infallible 3-act structure. Good enough for Aristotle, good enough for The Simpsons.
Mr. Sislak, I have a feeling there's going to be one more act to this story.
Well, I'm not hanging around for that. 4 acts.
All right, so let's move on to structure and themes. And actually, the first thing I want to talk about is the Brendan Fraser mummy movie, because that's, that's my point of contrast for The Mummy. And it was like, I've always known that the Brendan Fraser movie is a remake of this movie, but it was still just kind of weird to me how many elements of the remake come from this original movie, which it shouldn't, because that's what a remake is.
Yeah. I guess you're just used to how some remakes are just like remakes. Mm-hmm. Or they call it a remake, but really it's more of an adaptation of the original source material. Mm-hmm. But in this case, this is the original source material.
Yeah.
So...
Like, I didn't realize that the Mummy was Imhotep and that his whole goal was to... Imhotep has the exact same origin story in this movie that he does in the remake.
He wants to bring his girlfriend back.
Yeah, Anck-es-en-Amon.
Yeah, I can't say that.
Anck-es-en-Amon.
If I say that, it's going to sound like a slur.
Anck-es-en-Amon. The only flip is that in the remake, he's the priest, mm-hmm. and she's the princess, and they flip it. He's a prince and she's a priestess in the original. Yeah. Or they flipped it for the remake. But aside from that, it's all the same story. Like she died, and he wanted to bring her back. So what's the thing called when everybody chases a thing?
The MacGuffin.
The MacGuffin. The MacGuffin in the original is the Scroll of Thoth, and the MacGuffin in the remake is the Book of the Dead.
Yeah.
So they changed that a little bit. But in both origin stories, Imhotep steals the MacGuffin to try and bring back Anck-es-en-Amon, and is discovered by the Pharaoh's troops and is punished and buried alive.
Hey, maybe you shouldn't do that.
Yeah. No, Anck-es-en-Amon.
Anubis doesn't like it.
If I were the Pharaoh, I'd be like, oh, Imhotep, you miss your Anck-es-en-Amon.
There's this YouTuber I watch who did a video on Egyptian gods I need to send you because I think you would fucking love it.
Sure. Yeah. I had a pretty big Egyptian phase when I was a kid.
I still think a lot of their mythology is kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice and incesty.
Yeah.
Just like the Greeks.
I actually thought that Imhotep and Anck-es-en-Amon were brother and sister for a little bit of this movie.
Probably were.
Yeah. They may have been. Yeah, it's possible.
The movie never said they weren't.
Nope. That's true. So in my head, it's Wincest. What's gonna work? Wincest.
Oh my god.
Some of your just like general thoughts and reactions.
Okay, so like you got Kid Daniel's opinion that I wanted him to look more like a mummy for more of the movie.
He's only wrapped in bandages for the first scene.
And then you get your nice little time skip, and then you got adult Daniel going, I love watching Boris Karloff act.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
That's my, how you have like your remake thing. Mine is, why was this my least favorite as a kid? Because I wanted a monster movie. Mm-hmm. And it's just this dude with a ring.
Yeah.
Hey, I said, that was my reaction then. Now I get to say, it's Boris Karloff with a ring.
He seems like within the continuity of the Universal Monster Cinematic Universe, he seems super overpowered.
Yeah.
I mean, like, how do you beat him? Unless you have the Osiris charm, he can just give you... He's basically Kira. He can just sit... He's Light Yagami, I'm Kira, I'm sitting back in my bedroom, and I can just give anybody a heart attack.
I mean, yeah. You literally need the goddess Isis to blow your scroll up.
Yeah. Okay, he gets defeated by a literal god.
I guess we confirmed that the Egyptian pantheon is the correct religion in this universe.
Yeah. Or it's that's one interpretation of the actual gods that exist in that part of the world. They just interpret them in that way.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Let's go to characters, and let's not bury the lead. Let's talk about Boris Karloff as Ardith Bey, a.k.a. Imhotep, a.k.a. the Mummy.
This dude got to have a career because he played Frankenstein.
Mm-hmm. And he's also super impressive in Frankenstein. But I think this is his better performance. Maybe I need to rewatch Frankenstein.
Some of the trivia I know off the top of my head is that Bela Lugosi was supposed to play Frankenstein, and there's two different accounts. Either he turned it down because he didn't want to wear makeup all over his face and not have speaking lines, because he was a classically trained actor, or the director just didn't like him and didn't want to give him the role, and they gave it to Boris Karloff here, who in turn got, because he did that role so well, or was was able to work with the studios with it, that he got to play the Mummy. So there is a timeline where this is also Bela Lugosi.
They're all three are Bela.
Yeah.
But that wouldn't work, because then we get to the Abbott and Costello movies. He can't play all three characters. I mean, he could. But...
Yeah. But that's just a little bit of trivia I know. I'm a big Bela Lugosi fanboy and apologist, but I think that this is the correct timeline.
No, I agree. This
dude has a presence. Like, look at this face.
This shot, just this one shot of his face that I'll include in the YouTube version.
You can feel this image.
It's scary. Also, I mean, his face, like the makeup that they did on him when he was both as in his like human form and his mummy form are both like so impressive.
The one for the Mummy, like when he was wrapped up, took 8 hours to do, and then he had to lie in a coffin all night.
Oh.
I can't remember which reviewer said it, because I used to watch a lot of reviews for this. This is where I get a lot of this information off the top of my head. But he speculated that, like, when he was, like, the shot where he's, like, laying down, that he was actually asleep. Because he had to spend so much time.
That makes sense.
Getting wrapped up, and then they kept him in there throughout the scene.
I hope they gave him, like, a catheter in there.
So that when they opened it up, he was actually asleep. I don't know if that's true, but that's what the reviewer was speculating.
That would be fair. As long as he doesn't snore while the camera's on, it'd be fine.
So... But, yeah, you can feel this guy stare. The Universal Monster movies, I mean, maybe this is just me, because I just watched the Draculas, and then this. They really focus on the eyes.
Yeah.
Like close-ups of eyes, close-ups of scowls.
Well, when you have talented actors like Boris Karloff and Bela Lugosi.
Yeah. It's not quite the same with the Creature from the Black Lagoon, because that's a full... suit.
Yeah.
But if I'm remembering the Wolfman right, we get a lot of that too.
So, I think the cast of this movie is very good and very talented. I don't think it has as many heavy-hitting performances as Dracula does, though.
I agree with that.
But it just doesn't also have as good a roles.
Yeah.
Because, like, all the characters in this are fine, but there's not a
Van Helsing.
There's not a Van Helsing. There's not a Renfield. Like, there's not a character. Maybe that comes from this just being a screenplay to feature a mummy, where Dracula was based off of one of the greatest novels of all time.
Yeah. I wouldn't say that Karloff here carried the entire movie, but he is definitely the most memorable.
Yeah.
This is what you're going to remember if you watch this movie. I can't remember the chick's name.
So, Helen. A.k.a. Anck-es-en-Amon.
Yeah, that's the name I was thinking.
Was played by Zita Johann.
Gorgeous woman.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful, and she did a very good job.
Hiya! Happy Easter!
She did a very good job of playing like the two different sides of the personality and distinguishing between them without it being like crazy different.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then we just kind of have the trio of kind of heroes. David Manners plays Frank Wemple.
Yeah.
And Arthur Byron plays Sir Joseph Wemple, and Edward Van Sloan plays Dr. Mueller, who's sort of a Van Helsing-esque character, but not.
It's
but
not
isn't.
the same. Yeah.
And they're all like good, and they serve their roles in the movie, but they're just not written to be the like standout characters that we get in Dracula, or the Mummy, or even.
Because even though a lot of the characters in Dracula are really watered down, they're still just, the source material is so good that it still carries a lot of that.
Yeah. I mean, aside from Mina and Jonathan, yeah.
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 We can't have everything. Well, we could, but...
We can't have nice things.
I just really want an actual adaptation of Dracula and Frankenstein.
Kill you all! I'll drive you crazy, and I'll kill you all! I'm every nightmare you ever had. I am your worst dream come true. I'm everything you ever were afraid of.
Scary shit. Is this movie scary?
Not really.
It's not scary, but there are like scenes and shots that are like chilling.
Yeah.
Like specifically like the close up on Boris Karloff's face.
We're also looking at this in a 2020 perspective compared to people in the 1930s who were probably shitting their pants.
Why are you 4 years behind everybody else?
I never got past COVID.
Oh. Yeah, it was a big deal. It was a big deal. But yeah, I mean, it's not the kind of movie that's going to give me nightmares. But if I like walked into a dark alley and Ardith Bay was standing there, it's like giving me the Boris Karloff eyes. Oh shit.
Sir, may I ask you for directions?
Oh my god, are you Stephen King? No, I'm Dean Koontz. Oh.
Alright, Kings and Koontz. My king is Boris Karloff.
Same.
Yeah. Koontz, I don't know.
Part of me still wishes I had slightly more mummy, but that's child Daniel gnawing at the back of my skull.
Yeah, I kind of... It's one of those, like...
I don't want, like, all mummy, but I wanted, like, slightly more mummy.
I mean, if you think about even the remake, like, he's not mummified for but a few minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But those are my favorite parts.
It's just like I think the Mummy movie where you get the most mummy is probably Abbott and Costello Meet the Mummy.
Yeah, probably. I haven't seen any of the sequels to this, though.
No, I have not. Okay. Rankings. Rank them. And again, if you want to check out our rankings, just follow the link in the description to our Google Drive. And you can check out our lists. I'm going to make it my new number 26. Below the Virgin Suicides and above Cujo.
I'm going to put it right below Dracula.
Okay. New number 54, below Dracula and above The Ghost in the Darkness.
Yeah.
Okay, for further reading, this movie is better than these movies, but it kind of put me in the mind, and maybe it's because I've watched it in the past year, of The Exorcist 2 and The Exorcist prequels. Just kind of
the excavation stuff.
The excavation stuff, the Africanness. What?
He wants to be a podcaster.
Okay, come. And there are much better. I mean, obviously, the Brendan Fraser Mummy, at least the first one. Come on.
Now he's too nervous.
I still haven't watched the Tom Cruise one.
I wouldn't, but
Ron told us we had to.
I'm gonna cry.
Okay, so upcoming on the Horror of Babylon, our next two bonus episodes. Next Thursday, you're going to hear our thoughts on Alien Romulus. And then the week after that, so that's Thursday, August 29th, we're going to watch a movie that Daniel will pick. I don't know what it is yet.
I still need to pick one. I'll do that tonight before I leave.
Okay. And then...
I had 2 ideas, but one of them will require me to order a movie and hope it gets here on time.
Did you check YouTube or
Yes.
the Internet Archive?
I do not have the Internet Archive.
If you have the Internet, you have the Internet Archive.
I'm checking it now.
And then our next 2 Sunday episodes. This Sunday is our review of Goosebumps, Night of the Living Dummy 2. Dose. And then next Sunday, August 25th, is our watch-along of the original adaptation of Night of the Living Dummy 2. And you know who's not a dummy? Our patrons.
I just like to be dramatic.
Oh. Hello, slave. Thank you to Abigail the First, Breaker of Chains, Mother of Dragons, and
Logan,
the Full Metal Patron, and Ben the Fourth Patron of Hope, and me the Fifth, the Rainmaker.
She makes it rain, yo.
And again, she makes it rain. And thank you to Sarah the Sixth, the Keyblade Patron. And thank you to Horsemen Comics and Gaming, who's the sponsor of the Universal Monster-a-Thon. You can visit them in the Morgantown Mall in Morgantown, West Virginia, the mall at Robinson in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and you can shop online at fourhorsemen.tcgplayerpro.com. And if you do make it to the store, please run in there and just find Ron and just scream, "Those goddamn Mongolians! They stole my shitty back issues!" Be like, what?
Goddamn mongrels.
My shitty back issues. I keep them in the shitty. They're my back issues, and I do this bad.
You grew up in the 90s. No one expects you to be that much better.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for watching the Mummy and recording.
It was a pretty good time.
All right, thank you to our patrons. Stay tuned for our socials and stay scary.
And now for the obligatory socials. Please like, share, and subscribe. You can find the podcast on Twitter at HorrorPod69. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Slasher, and Goodreads. Become part of the Disturbed community by asking for the Facebook group and Discord links. Send dick pics to the Horror of Babylon podcast at gmail.com. Support the show at patreon.com/the Horror of Babylon. In closing, you can let your friends know that The Horror of Babylon is available on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible, and all other major podcast apps. Stay scary.